welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play by play commentator Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an impact fee technician who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome back to the show, Corrina Mabey.
Hello.
How is everything on that side of the world?
Do
It
you
hasn't
really
gone
want the,
totally
the answer
crazy
to
yet.
that? It could be better. It could be worse. But it could be better. I mean,
Could it be? Could it be worse?
I mean, we're on the verge of like that worst case scenario happening.
Hey, you
But
haven't been deported yet.
I have. I mean, I thank God that my last name is normal, and I'm still have like my passport and shit. But yes, it's scary times over here for some people, so it's kind of sad. But
It's some of the recent news doesn't seem to matter if you're an American citizen or not. If they
no,
think you're a criminal, and they send you out. Like, on your way,
yeah,
deported. Then we'll fix it later.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see how many of the child sex offenders that are within the certain religious groups actually have that happen to them, considering that there are more of those than there are of the accused homosexuals that are apparently doing all these crazy things. It's nothing makes sense. I don't get it anymore. So we for a joke for because Chloe just turned 16 last week, and as a joke we got her there's a running joke because she had a substitute teacher tell the kids that Jesus sent him to teach them and that they should all be following Christ in their journey, and he was reported and stuff. So as a running joke now we just tease her about that, and we got her a pocket Bible. That's one of her gag gifts for her birthday. And so my mom made the joke, hey, look, it's probably the only book that's not going to be banned in school soon, which is not too far from the truth around here now.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
it's a little concerning.
yeah, so everything's just going to shit. I'm sure you guys are having a lot of fun just laughing at us.
We would be if we weren't about a week into an election campaign, which is slowly descending into the utter chaos of America as well. So
Ah, uh,
fun.
strap in, buckle up. It's going to be wild. At least you guys don't have like, guns and shit. I mean, you do, but not to the extent that we do. So you're kind of safe over there at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit. But away from
Negative.
the world of insanity.
We need some humor and lightheartedness and fun all around goofiness times.
Correct. So this week we celebrate our own engagement. Surprise! By turning back the clock and revisiting a film about a proposal that turns 25 years old this year. So on the agenda today is Meet the Parents, starring Ben Stiller, Robert De Niro, Blythe Danner, Teri Polo, and Owen Wilson. The film follows Greg Focker, a male nurse who suffers a series of unfortunate events while meeting his girlfriend's parents for the first time ahead of proposing to their eldest daughter. Uh, Something I learned after rewatching the movie. This is actually a remake of a 1992 film, Meet the Parents, directed by Greg Gliana and produced by Jim Vincent. I believe it was an Italian film,
Huh, okay. That's
but
interesting.
Universal purchased the rights to that film with the intent of creating a new, I guess, American version. They originally had Steven Spielberg and Jim Carrey attached as director and lead role, respectively.
Hmm.
But they fell through, and we eventually got Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller, and yeah, we got this movie, which clocks in at 1 hour and 43 minutes. Nice, brisk movie that I still find incredibly funny. It's packed with jokes throughout. Like, they throw everything at the wall with this movie, and
Yeah.
thankfully, a lot of it sticks. There are hardly any jokes where I'm like, yeah, we probably could have cut that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
There
like,
is one there is one joke that does get cut when they play this movie on planes.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, yep, I know what you're talking about. There's like a couple sequences where this movie is does show its age with like its jokes and stuff like that, but for the most part, I think it still maintains like its funny little spots here and there. I can't believe that this movie's 25 years old, and
Mhm.
after rewatching this movie, I realized I probably watched this at too young of an age. Um, because I remember when this came out and my mom and I watched it together. It was like one of those things that like you just like it looked funny, so we ended up watching it. And I did not realize that I had not that there was a third one of these, which I now will probably
The
end up
third one's great.
watching. Yeah, I've never seen it, but I will probably end up watching it because I don't know anything about it. The second one sticks in my mind, so now I'm kind of like going down a rabbit hole here.
Yeah, this is one of those rare cases where the sequels are actually just as good.
Yeah, it's like you don't get that a lot. Like Home Alone did it with the Home Alone 1 and 2.
Mhm.
But it's really
And then
hard to
3 and
maintain.
4 were terrible.
Yeah, it's really hard to maintain comedy trilogies and beyond, I think, without losing the originality of it. It's very far and few between. So I'm glad that this one's kind of like a very smooth collective comedy trilogy.
Yeah, it's because, like, once you hit once, the second time, yeah, you can maybe bring this similar or same jokes back.
Yeah.
A third time, it's like, "Okay, we've heard this before." But,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they do it with this one because 'cause they've got meet the parents. So
Yep.
it's Greg meeting Pam's family.
Yeah.
So then obviously the next one is Meet the Fockers, where it's Pam meeting Greg's family and the families meeting each other, which is
Yeah.
hilarious. And
Great
then the
movie.
third one is Little Fockers, where they have kids. So
Yep.
it's like same people, but kind of different twists on the story every
Mm-hmm.
time. What, like, yeah, it's- you've got that typical like guy meeting the daughter's parents, which has so many like implications there. Then you've got the flip side of she's meeting his parents, which doesn't have as much like pressure on it, but then you have
Yeah.
the families come together. So you've got that sort of silly craziness between the two very different families.
Yes.
And then the third one is like a story about kids and the chaos the kids bring into life.
Yeah. I think what also works is that everybody in this movie has really good chemistry. Like they are just
Mhm.
absolutely phenomenal and they all bounce off of each other so well. Even the side characters that pop in throughout all three films, um, they all just like mesh so well and it's nice to see. And I think that's why, like you said, it's so successful in the whole franchise.
It's funny you say that there's good chemistry between them though, because I did read that Robert De Niro intentionally would not talk to Ben Stiller unless they were on set, so that you kind of always had that like little bit of friction
Tension.
between the pair.
Yeah.
And then they specifically gave Ben Stiller uncomfortable clothes so that he was always slightly uncomfortable on set,
Yes. It's fantastic.
which is great to then it doesn't like come off that way. It just comes off as like this is naturally how these people are between each other.
Yeah, which that's awesome to like know that is in the background because it just makes having watched this even more fun to know that like that's real kind of like reactions almost. You've been talking to me all day and now you're fucking talking to me because we're behind a camera. So
Yeah, so they could never like build up a friendly rapport with each other because they never spoke to
yeah,
each other. So then when
that's
they were
funny.
on set, there was that little bit of like standoffish, like I'm not sure how to gauge this person yet.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like wrestling where like some people just don't talk to each other just to maintain that kind of
Mhm.
lore.
And like we said, so it's got Robert De Niro as Jack Byrnes, the father of Pam. He is a retired CIA agent. My first thought when he pops up in this movie is he looks so young because I just watched Zero Day on
Hmm.
Netflix. His one of his more recent roles. He's
He's
also
starting to
in The
show.
Alternate Nights recently, and like 25 years, it's showing on old Robert.
Yeah, I think the last movie I saw him in was The Irishman, and I was like, oh yeah, he looks real fucking old. And granted, he is real fucking old. But it is really interesting to see him like in these movies from like way back in the heyday. Like if you look like watch him in like Taxi Driver, um, that's fucking. It's like just I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
an
probably another
evolution of him.
25 years before this one.
Hmm?
That's probably like another 10, 15 years before this one.
Yeah, so it's like an interesting like evolution of him. He's almost like a Pokemon. Like he's just like evolved, but in a graceful kind of way because he doesn't look horrible for his age. He's just like aged through time and it just looks like grandfather time over there. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, like now that you've just recently rewatched this,
Yeah.
just chuck on 0 Day and like scrub through until you see him. Yeah, wow.
Wow.
He's definitely aged significantly in 25 years.
That's crazy.
And his character, I love his character as the father of Pam, like the typical like nobody's ever good enough for my daughter type thing.
Yeah.
The human lie detector, which we see in full effect late in the movie, is so fun to see
Yes.
that play out. They reference it a lot, and you can see him like reading Greg the entire time. And then when they
Yep.
finally paid off, where he actually just grabs his wrists and does the human lie detector to him, is awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Also he's not a CIA agent. We don't talk about that. He is a florist. Like he is all into flowers. That's
Mm.
that's what it
Yeah,
is.
he's so into flowers. When Greg gives him a gift, he's like, "Mm-hmm,
That
thanks."
one from this gene of flower, this species of flower.
And then Ben Stiller as Greg Focker, although that's, as we learn, not his actual name.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the one joke that has not aged great. But
Yeah.
everything else in this movie, like we watched Ace Ventura, and that's aged significantly.
Yeah.
This, I don't think there's anything apart from him being called Gaylord Focker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing too crazy about that name and the
No.
jokes in this movie.
No, yeah, that's like the extent of it. And but like I mean that was the thing back when these movies were made is that, everybody kind of like poked at that stigma almost. So you have like a ton of movies from like the early 2000s and like late 90s that always kind of do that whole stupid joke round.
Yep. One thing I did find funny though that is obviously they wrote this movie, had it all ready to go, but then the MPAA, the classification board,
Yeah.
were not going to allow them to use the name Fokker unless they could specifically find an actual person with that surname.
Oh,
So obviously they managed to do that.
I was gonna say, so there's somebody in the world, and it's probably still some people in the world with a last name of Fokker.
Hmm. I'm sure they
Something.
loved when this movie came out.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and I love when the Pam's parents realize, oh wait, if that's his surname and they get married,
Yeah.
Pam's middle name's going to be an issue
Yep.
because they realize that her name will then become Pam Martha.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep, yep.
Which is
Yeah, that's
very good.
it's a very
And
fun.
they doubled down on those jokes in the sequels as well with
Yeah.
his parents and yeah,
I wonder how
they like when you have the surname Fokker, maybe
yeah.
don't name your son Gaylord.
Yeah. Like
Just
I'm in
in
my
general, maybe don't name your son that, but especially when that's your surname.
yeah, and maybe that was just like a thing for people back when he was supposed to have been born. Um, I really wonder though, like how many takes they had to do, because they would just go and say fucker on
Oh
camera
yeah,
instead of Fokker. Like that had to have been so hard to try and like nail down all the time. Like Fokker, Fokker, like yeah,
yeah. I would love to see the
bloopers.
blooper reel and the gag reel of just how many times they stuff that up.
Yeah, because it would be fantastic.
The other characters, Teri Polo as Pam, she's fine in this movie. She's definitely not like the key focus of it. It's clearly De Niro and Stiller's movie.
Yeah, which is normal because it is like that is like the biggest stigma I think when couples decide that it is the right time for each other to meet their parents, and like there's always that weird uh thing where no dad thinks that any man is like good enough for their kid, I guess, or something like that. For me that is not the case. My mom is like that. Um, but she likes you. I don't really know why, but it's whatever.
Wow.
It's the accent. We'll just leave it at that.
But yeah, like Teri kind of takes a backseat for this one. I think she plays a bigger role in the second one because it's like that more girlfriend meeting
Yeah.
mother of the son. So there's a bit more dynamic there. But I'm still pretty sure the second one is it's De Niro and whoever plays.
Dennis
Um,
Hoffman or
yeah,
Dennis
I think
Hoffman
that's right.
plays Ben Stiller's dad because
Yeah.
um
So
yeah,
it becomes basically their movie in that one. Even
yeah,
Stiller takes a bit more of a backseat.
it's that's interesting. I feel like that's almost like I don't know, like the dad rivalry is probably what that Daddy's Home movie was like. I never watched that movie, but I've heard that that's probably what it
Another
is.
good one. Another very good
Yeah,
one.
I, I'm pretty much like in a rock apparently or under a rock.
And then we have Blythe Danner as Dina, Jack's wife and Pam's mother. She has some very funny moments in this as well,
Yeah,
but again, a side character. Then we get Owen Wilson come in as Kevin, uh, the stock investor slash wannabe carpenter, Jesus impersonator,
everything.
ex fiance of Pam.
Yeah.
Uh, Very weird when we go through his house and there's photos of him and Pam still on display. Just pompous asshole throughout.
Yeah, because like you'd walk into his house and you would swear that like him and Pam were like married by now or something like that. It's just so weird, and he tries so hard to like impress her dad, even though that's not a thing anymore. It's so funny though, because he's like the perfect
Yeah, you
third
know who else
wheel
was a
essentially.
carpenter? Jesus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's just Jew, Jesus,
Mhm.
Jay. It's the most ridiculous things that he does, and it's like so awkward between him and Greg when like Pam goes with her dad to go swimming and they're just in the in the garage and he's reminiscing about his ex in front of her new beau. It's like kind of awkward.
Yeah. And then he gives him a speedo to swim in. It's like, oh Jesus. Everyone else is in like board
Trunks.
shorts and
Yeah.
yeah, just awkward. But yeah, he's funny. It's weird to see Owen Wilson in that kind of dickhead role.
Yeah, because he's usually like the stupid, like goofy best friend or like the one who's trying to get the girl, like the like hopeless romantic kind of person.
I do always find it funny when he's like the heartthrob of a movie. I'm like, Owen Wilson? Really?
Yeah. Isn't he the main like villain in Zoolander though? Like I've
Yeah, probably. I
I
haven't
don't
seen that in
remember
so
it. I've only seen Zoolander once, but like I know that there's a thing between him and Ben Stiller with the look. I'm not gonna try and do the look because I don't know it. But I feel like that might
interesting.
be the only like bad guy role he's been in probably.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, as I'm sure Jeremy Lambert will tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUS WRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
So yeah, like the whole movie revolves around Greg's attempt to propose to Pam, which is a little bit weird too, because like we learn through the movie that they've only been together for 10 months. He's already like trying to propose in front of her school. without ever having met her family.
There's a lot. That's kind of
they're moving fast in this movie. What's going on
yeah.
here?
To be fair, it is a really really cute attempted proposal at the beginning of the movie. Like I thought it was adorable how he got her whole class involved, but the fact that it's been less than a year and they hadn't met each other's parents is kind of a shocker. Like I don't do very conventional things, and I'm all for doing your own thing, but that is a very weird bit to me.
Yeah, that bit was like, oh, this is a bit strange.
Yeah.
Whatever. One of the things that definitely shows the age of this movie is the very lax TSA when they're flying to see Pam's parents, with just like milling about, tossing bags, and then, oh, that bag doesn't fit. Yeah, we've got to check it. They don't put any label on it. They just yell out where it's supposed to go, and
Yeah.
that apparently works. Very much a sign of pre 9/11 era.
Yeah. Yep. It's that, and then like when he's towards the end of the movie, like Robert De Niro's character just walks into LaGuardia Airport, like no,
Into
like
the
leaves his
security
office.
room where he's getting interviewed because he yelled out bomb on a plane.
Yeah, and he's just like walking through like he owns the place. So you can't park there, tow my car. Like seriously, like back in the day, sure, 100%, but nowadays, like that's never going to be a thing. So it is very interesting to see how much has changed.
Yeah,
From
you park your car at the front door like that and just walk in, they're going to tackle you and arrest you straight away.
yeah, that's not you
You're
don't
not
do that like
getting
that.
anywhere in the airport.
Yeah.
Another thing that is funny in the airport scenes is when Greg is attempting to change his flight to go home early because everything's just gone to shit.
Yeah.
Uh, he gets to the check-in counter for Atlantic American Airlines, and then asks the lady to change his flight. And she just sits there and just like ferociously clicks on the keyboard for like a minute and a half. It's
Yeah.
like, what is going on here?
Yeah, she
And she
doesn't
goes,
even
okay,
click
we
a
can.
mouse.
She just types away really fast for so long, and like doesn't even sound like there's no gaps of like pressing a space bar or anything. It's just
No. Yeah, it's that was something.
she eventually gets to the point, okay, we can change your flight. That's going to be $1,137.11. I was like, okay, for 20 years ago, that's still accurate today.
Yeah, and the fact that he was just like, yeah, go ahead and book it. Like, I don't have an extra like almost $1,200 lying around to just like change my flight around last minute. That's when you like if that had been me, I would have been like, I'm gonna go book a hotel room because the hotel is probably cheaper than change my flight.
Also, only a nurse.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not like he should be that rich.
no, no. He's not even like a good nurse. He's an ER nurse, so like he's like the bottom of the barrel. Like he works a lot of shifts, but he's not getting paid shit.
Yep. So then, yeah, eventually he gets to the gate to board the plane. Slight error in this scene too, where he walks up and she goes, "Oh no, we're only boarding um, sections 1 to 8 or whatever, like rows 1 to 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
You'll have
I
to
know.
wait." And it spins around, and he's literally the only person there.
Yep.
And you're like, whatever. But then when it cuts to him being on the plane, it's a loaded plane. There's still people coming in behind him. I'm like, where did all these people come from?
Yeah, like it's a full-on plane. Like even when the lady, now that you said that, when the lady was like, "Oh yeah, there is like one available seat." Now that I think about it, I'm like, where are all those people like that are on this plane just waiting to board? None of them are there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit of a stuff up there, but it's makes for a funny scene
Technicality.
where people, yeah, go to line up and like, oh no, we're not doing your group yet.
Yours
Like you
were
have to
yet.
wait. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
Who cares? Got to get on at one point anyway.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so he eventually snaps at the flight attendant, screams out a bomb threat, and then we see him get carried off the plane in the most hilarious way. And this is the scene that gets cut. If they
On
play this,
airplanes,
if this is available on a plane, they
gets
just
cut.
cut this whole sequence out.
That's so interesting.
Which is weird because then that goes into the moment where Jack has changed his mind. He's realized, okay, Greg is worthy of Pam. They both love each other a lot. I'll go and get this guy and bring him back and we'll sort it out. And he does the human lie detector in the interview room of the airport.
Yeah. I'm
So
wondering if there's like an
where does it
edited
cut?
version. I'm wondering if there's like an edited version that the studio put out like specifically for that where they cut and splice so it still works somehow. Like instead of like saying like, oh, you threatened the plane with a bomb, maybe they just like splice in like you threatened the plane and then like go into that or something maybe. I don't know. I've never watched it on a plane, but now I'm kind of curious to like
Yeah,
see how
it's
that
like
actually plays out.
I don't know whether they just cut where he's at the check-in gate and they just like cut to him being in the interview room and it's like, oh, he got abusive and they took him away.
Yeah,
Or do
like
they
you yelled
just
at a
cut
plane
that
and then they
entire whole sequence out and just cut from him leaving to then all of a sudden he's in an interview room with Jack?
yeah, there's that's something.
So yeah, it's a bit funny. But yeah, I love sort of just the quirkiness of all of the people involved in this too. Like you see Pam's keeping a lot of secrets from both Greg and her father.
Yeah.
Like they're not living together. She's had a prior engagement, just all of these sort of things. Jack has secrets that he's keeping from his family. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously the apple didn't really fall far from the tree there
Yep.
with all his nanny cams, his untrusting nature. Uh,
Yeah.
he's a florist, not a former CIA spy hunter.
Mm-hmm. The only one in that family who doesn't have a secret is the mom, because even the brother is a secret pothead. So like
Hmm.
the mom's the only one who's like la di da, like she's
Yeah, the
the
mum's just totally oblivious to
yeah
everything. She's a wackadoo.
yeah
I think
she's
that's why the second one, I'm pretty sure she gets along with Greg's parents the most because she's just kind of like, whatever.
oh, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And we need to take a moment to acknowledge the best character in this entire movie, which is Mr. Jinxie, the poor
Hmm.
cat, who is just totally and completely taken advantage of and gets lost and replaced. Greg
Yep.
his spray paints a cat's tail at one point to save his own ass. That's I'm sure PETA had a field day with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, De Niro spent a lot of time with that cat too
I mean, they are BFFs
to try
on
to
film.
try and get that. Yeah, to try and get that relationship between the two cats, and he would walk around with the treats in his pocket all the time, so that the cat like followed him everywhere.
I love it. I wish I could teach my dog how to use the toilet like the cat uses the toilet because it make my life so much easier.
Hmm. Uh, we also have the super awkward greeting between Pam and Jack when they arrive at the house. That's their relationship is just weird.
Yeah, like I'm close with my parents and like I'm closer with my mom than I am my dad, but I am not on that level of like weird like hug, handshake, nickname things and
Yeah,
stuff.
thanks, pancakes.
No, it's just weird. It is just strange, and I've yet to meet anybody who is that close with their parents. It's just I don't know. It's interesting.
Yep. And then we get the classic awkward father and boyfriend chat in the car, which is very funny to see, which ultimately leads to the actual lie detector machine test,
Yeah,
which is another thing that De Niro specifically asked to have added to this because prior to filming, he started like learning about lie detectors and just became infatuated with them. And was like, we should put this in. And that wasn't originally in the script and they
it's
reworked it to
interesting.
put that in. And I'm glad they did because that's probably one of the best scenes.
Yeah, it's hilarious, and I love
It
the
really
fact that
elevates that like intimidating meet the father scenario.
yeah, I also love the fact that apparently Robert De Niro is just a jack of all trades when it comes to things. Like he's a cat whisperer, he is now a lie detector enthusiast. Like the hell?
Yeah, he's a strange cat. Yeah, I think for me the two best scenes in the movie are the lie detector
Mm-hmm.
and then the uh, Greg milking the cat scene.
That is of course that would be one of your fucking favorite scenes. Like can't
I
never
got
have just
teeth.
like a normal
I got
scene.
teeth. You think you can milk me?
Oh my God. I never have to hear that line again. It would be too soon. Like Oh my god. You like that scene just because that is like that. I feel like that is like an Ace Ventura kind of esque scene, and that is you and I are very opposite when it comes to our humor. Me, one of my favorite scenes is when the gazebo goes up in flames, um, because
Oh,
there's a
because
ton of
it's like Final Destination where just everything just
it's
snowballs and makes it 1,000 times
that
worse.
that whole outdoor sequence from the time Greg lets Jinx out of the house and goes chasing him to the point where he lights the gutter on fire with a cigarette that he cannot stand to not have, and then everything just goes up in flames. It's fantastic.
After like previously flushing the toilet and
Making
flooding the
everything.
backyard.
Yep. That was one of my favorite sequences. Owen Wilson backing the truck up and getting stuck in the shit and spraying it on everybody.
Spraying. Yeah.
That is another top sequence for me right there. Like
It's just like
it's it's
calamity of errors. Just everything that could go wrong goes wrong in
did.
this movie.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. Also, Ben Stiller just chewing through Nicorette gum like it's no tomorrow. Like the
Yeah, that's
best.
ultimate stress smoking.
Yeah, I just that's fantastic.
And with the I have nipples, Greg, could you milk me scene? I'm not the only person that thinks that's an amazing scene from this movie.
Oh
The
boy.
American Film Institute in 2005 put it on their list of 100 years, 100 movie quotes.
Oh my God. I couldn't have found something better, huh? No, just had to be that one, huh?
Mhm.
Just the whole situation, that whole conversation is so awkward. I just can't with it.
Mhm. And then the last thing I wrote down was that there was one scene that, like I said, that there wasn't any sort of jokes that didn't really hit. This joke hits, but it's kind of superfluous. It wasn't really needed when the first initial bag is finally delivered to the house and Greg doesn't have time to open it and make sure it's his bag. Firstly, of how does the wrong bag get delivered? It would have had a tag on it, but I
Yeah,
guess we never see a tag get put on his bag. So
it's very true.
year 2000, shit was different.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets delivered. This is where we learn that his name is Gaylord, not Greg.
Yep.
And turns out the bag was filled with BDSM gear, which Jack
Fantastic.
lockpicks and opens it and finds that out. And then that's it. We don't see anything more of that. That scene's never referenced again.
No, that which is really weird because then when you watch Meet the Fockers and find out that like Ben Stiller's mom is like
He's a sex therapist. It makes
sex
sense.
therapist who has her own show and everything, I'm just like, dude, that could have totally been his bag though.
Yeah.
It really could have been his bag.
So yeah, that's like a funny moment where it's like, oh, this is going to lead to some
Crazy
awkward,
conversation.
interesting conversations, and that's it. We never reference it again. So that's like one of those ideas that, like I said, they throw a lot at the wall. The vast majority of it hits.
Yeah.
That hits when you see it happen, but then they just totally gloss over it and forget about it. You're like, oh, there's
Yeah.
so much more. I guess that's where the sex therapist part in 2 comes back and kind of pays off with that.
Yeah, I wonder if they saw the error of their ways and how they dropped the ball on that, and they were like, "How can we fix this?" And just decided to throw that in there, which is fantastic because his mom is Barbara Streisand, and she's just so loud and fantastic in her role that it just suits her. Like I could see her totally being a sex therapist if she wasn't like a singer and actress.
Yep. And then yeah, the last one is I love that it's ultimately Jack that proposes to Greg.
Yep. Will you be my son-in-law?
Yeah, okay. That was the plan.
Yep. Yeah, it's very strange. Um, that's definitely does not how I think he saw that proposal going, but it works regardless.
Yeah. But yeah, so ultimately this is still a great movie. 25 years later, still just as hilarious. Thankfully, no aged jokes. Most of it still totally fine. Like you said, you watched it too early. I don't think there's anything in here where you're like, oh, kids can't watch this. Apart from the BDSM bag,
Yeah. Sorry, it just
nothing
started
else is like,
thundering. The dog is freaking out because it's thundering, so I'm sorry.
mm.
Um,
There's no other jokes in here. I'm like, oh, that's a bit off color for a young child to watch.
yeah, besides the
Apart from the
the
name,
milking. The milking shenanigans.
But that's just, how else do you get milk?
Ay, ay,
It's a lot
ay.
about where milk comes from early on.
Oh my God. I don't think a 10-year-old needs to be hearing that, like a description of trying to milk a cat. That's all I'm saying. No, the visuals were not necessary. That's not necessary at all.
But yeah, so this movie was incredibly successful, obviously, with it spawning the sequels, Meet the Fockers in 2004, so 4 years later, and then Little Fockers in 2010, 6 years after that. It also spawned off like a couple of weird reality shows that were
I did
like
not know
kind
that.
of Meet the Parents inspired type things where they would get couples and like have them meet the parents for the first time and do lie detectors and stuff.
Yeah.
But budget was $55 million. It earned that back in 11 days before
Shit.
going on to make $330.4 million.
That's insane.
Hence why it spawned 2 sequels, reality shows. Like, this was a massive cash cow for the studio.
Yeah, it really is. And I feel like there are other movies that are very similar to this, that are out there, but they don't hit the way that this particular one does. Like there's that one that Ashton Kutcher came out with, where he has to go and meet his girlfriend's parents, but they're like it's a mixed race couple. So I remember that one coming out, but that did not hit nearly as hard as this one did because I think it was just different time frame.
And like I just think the cast in this, De Niro, which you don't normally see in comedic roles,
Yeah.
is awesome. Ben Stiller is obviously a great comedy actor, so to put those 2 together to kind of have the silly wacky guy with De Niro as the straight man works really well.
Yeah. No,
In terms
overall,
of a rating, what would you give Meet the Parents?
Meet the Parents is going to be a solid 4. It's one of my favorite comedies, and especially now that I've rewatched it. It's definitely like it holds its own. It's a really fun like date night movie. It's a dumb, stupid movie to just throw on whenever you need a good laugh. And I feel like the sequels are just as equally appealing and humorous. So why not?
Yep. Yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 as well. Still incredibly funny. So many laugh out loud moments that I even forgot. There's the key iconic ones that you remember, but there's still plenty of others throughout it where you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And yet, for a 25-year-old movie, I think it's aged so well because it's like this timeless subject matter of at some point everyone's going to meet their partner's parents and there's going to be these awkward encounters. So
Yeah.
very well done. Definitely rewatch it now that it's 25 years old and I feel ancient.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's even funnier that to me now because of your whole bamboozling thing while you were here. And I'm just like, man, I'm kind of glad that none of that happened to you. And I'm glad that your mom thanked so well.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never did any bamboozling.
Yeah, there's no bamboozling people. There's just a lot of bamboozling.
I was just dropping hints and she couldn't pick them up at all.
He dropped hints for 2 weeks and I still didn't pick up anything. Anything at all. There's hints.
Technically, it was longer than 2 weeks because we booked this episode before I came over there.
Yeah, I found out literally before we started recording this episode that this was also a bamboozle moment where this was strategically planted on the calendar to be done after the big question and stuff. So kudos to you for being a genius. I'll give you that. It's the only time I'm ever going to call you.
Awesome. Alrighty. Thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Corrina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at Jammy Media and at Pario Magazine. We will be back next week to begin our, I think it's 7 or 8 week run of episodic breakdowns of The Last of Us Part 2.
Yay, strap in. So much work.
The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.